Hey vet techs, today on Elevate we're going to be talking about synthesis, as in the introduction of a needle into a body cavity for the purposes of aspirating cells or fluid. Now if you've never used an ultrasound or stuck a needle into a body cavity, then ideally you don't want to start training on a live patient. If possible, you should use a training dummy. There are many products on the market that imitate tissue for different purposes, but we can make our own phantoms at home. But imitating tissue can be tricky unless you have the right ingredients in the right proportions. Ingredients, proportions, measuring. This is starting to sound an awful lot like a recipe. Well, they say imitation is the highest form of flattery, and we're going to be cooking up imitation tissue. We might as well follow the format of one of the greatest of all time. So, let's assemble some ultrasound phantoms using a few ingredients you can find around the house on today's episode of So today on Elevate, not only will we be learning to walk a fine line between homage and copyright infringement, we'll be cooking up some phantoms for use in the clinic. Now, recipes for ultrasound phantoms in peer-reviewed publications go all the way back to the late 1970s. A good reference for a lot of that research can be found here. Over the last 50 years, experiments have covered all kinds of ingredients, everything from agar to gel waxes to polyvinyl alcohol cryogels to polyvinyl chloride plastisols. But I ain't no chemist. I am just a simple man. So today on Elevate, we're just going to use some plain old gelatin and psyllium husk fiber. Plus, if you use aseptic technique for your training, you can eat it afterwards. One of the most interesting published papers that I've seen was published in 2011 by Dr. Mark Lowe and his colleagues at the Department of Pediatric Emergency Medicine at Seattle Children's Hospital. They published a paper finding the optimal ratio to best simulate tissue, and as a bonus, they injected it with different things to simulate abscesses. Everything from honey to ketchup, mayonnaise. Yep, you heard it, mayonnaise to simulate an abscess. Who would have thought? Instead of abscesses, today we're going to assemble an ultrasound phantom specifically for the use of fine needle aspirate and venipuncture. So now, it's time to prep.
Okay, we're going to start with a 500 ml carafe, which we're going to do all of our batches with, a 1.5 liter container to fill our total volume, and some gelatin. It can be either the unflavored or the flavored, your choice. Here we have some lime flavored gelatin. We'll also need some psyllium husk fiber. And for additions, we want to avoid cherry tomatoes. They just cast too strong of a shadow. Today, we're going to be putting in some blueberries. Blueberries are great, raspberries as well. But today, we're only going to use blueberries. Strawberries are okay. We'll talk about why that is in a second, but we're going to use them today. Also use a Penrose drain. This will simulate our vein. I chose the old school tan Penrose drain. I went ahead and filled that with water and tied it at both ends. And don't forget your bowls for prep work. We're going to need 3 medium and 3 small. After setting those out, get your digital scale, turn it on, put a bowl on empty, and zero it out or tare it. We're going to add 40 grams of gelatin to each bowl, equaling to about 80 grams per liter for our 1.5 liter recipe. And I realize that this isn't the lime jello that I showed earlier, but I like the strawberry smell better, so leave me alone. And we're talking about psyllium husk fiber now, so pay attention. 4 tablespoons per liter, and so we're going to do 2 tablespoons for each of the small cups. Now you're going to get a small cup and combine your gelatin and fiber, and shake it around for no reason at all. We're going to pour a small amount of our total water volume in it. You're going to need more than that, trust me. Now, don't skip this step. This is called blooming the gelatin. It rehydrates the mixture, creating a much smoother, less clumpy final product. Let this sit for about 10 minutes before adding it to your hot water. After heating the rest of your water, set it on the counter and don't touch the pan because it's really hot. And this is what happens when you don't pour enough of your room temperature water in your bloomed gelatin. It turns into a gummy mess, then you have to get a spoon out and work extra hard to incorporate it into your water back into solution. And here's what it should look like after it cools on your counter for a little bit. A big, gloopy mess. Insert your gross analogy here. Now we put it in our 1.5 liter container as our first layer. We're going to put some blueberries and a strawberry in. The strawberry we put in gets better over time. At first it casts a pretty strong shadow though. After the first day or two, you'll start to see more and more details show up every time you image it. Also, I found a pack of gummy bears, so we'll put a couple of those in there too. Squeeze, squeeze.
Okay, park it in your refrigerator for at least 30 minutes, no less. We have to let this layer of gelatin set before the next layer is poured on. Don't worry, your patience will be... What? Copyrighted? I can't say that? Oh, but... What? Also copyrighted? Well, balls. Okay, 30 minutes, no less.
And second verse, same as the first. We put our dry goods together and put room temperature water, let it bloom for about 10 minutes before we put it in the hot water. Here we have our chilled first layer, voila. And now we add the second layer on top of the first. Now this is the layer you want to put your fake vein in. You don't want it on the first layer because it'll be too deep. We'll put a few blueberries in and, well, would you look at that? There were only 2 gummy bears in there. I don't know what happened. Oh well.
Okay, just like the first time, put it in your refrigerator for at least 30 minutes, and then we'll put the last layer in.
And behold, our final layer to be added to our ultrasound phantom. Once the final layer is on, smooth it out, lid it up, put it in the fridge, and take it to work the next day. And here we have our ultrasound phantom in action. You can see our gummy bears and some of our fruit. Then also our strawberry casting our very dark shadow, but don't worry, over the next day or two that will reduce. You can also see some simulated muscle planes or tissue planes from our different layers of gelatin. And here we have a linear array probe set on a vascular setting with our Penrose drain filled with water. As you can see, the needle coming down from the left side of the screen, it touches and then goes into our vein. After we suck some fluid out, then we're going to inject some right back in. You can see where the bubbles kind of go into the tube along with that. And here we are back with our convex probe. This is a different ultrasound phantom that I made, and this is a raspberry. And there you see the needle coming in from the left side of the screen. And we have a little tap tap taparoo.
We hope you've learned something on this episode and are now fanatical about our fantastic phantom recipe. We hope you're able to practice a range of techniques. Don't just practice cystocentesis and fine needle aspirates. Try your hand at placing IV catheters and drawing blood using the ultrasound. We think it's not only safe and fun practice tool, but also it's tasty. When you use this training tool in your practice, share your experience and let us know if you have any questions in the comments below. Stay safe out there and have fun on all of your imaging adventures. And remember, never stop learning. And we'll see you on next episode of Elevate. Okay, put the first layer of gelatin in your refrigerator for 30 minutes, no less. We have to first let the first layer set before we put the blah 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 blah.